Hello, and welcome to the virtual Connecticut Forum called Student Voices, Distance Learning During COVID-19. My name is Kim Traverso, and I'm a consultant for the State Department of Education. It is with great pleasure and enthusiasm to introduce Connecticut State Board of Education member, Ms. Erin Benham. She is a strong voice for student advocacy, and we are honored to have her here with us today. She has taught in the Meriden Public Schools for over 36 years and is a retired president of the Meriden Federation of Teachers. She also serves on the board of directors for Project Excel and Sisters Project. Welcome, Erin, and I will turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Kim, for that kind introduction, and thank you for all your efforts as we explore this important topic of student voice. Today, my colleagues and I will be asking students in grades 6 through 12 about their experiences with distance learning. Our students are the best people to tell us how distant learning is working for them. We are thrilled to be joined today with 6 students who represent schools throughout the state of Connecticut. Although they attend different schools, they all have one thing in common. COVID-19 has disrupted their schools and has disrupted their learning. Each student has generously agreed to share their thoughts, opinions, and experiences during this unusual time. It is also my great pleasure to be joined by school counselors throughout the state of Connecticut. Please take a moment to introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Michelle Catucci, the Department Chair for School Counseling at Cheshire High School and the Executive Director for the Connecticut School Counselor Association.
Hi, I'm Dr. Chaka Felder-McIntyre, Supervisor of School Counseling for Windsor Public Schools and also the liaison for the Connecticut College Application Campaign.
Hi, I'm Vanessa Montorsi, Director of Pupil Services and Counseling at Fairfield Ludlow High School.
Hi, I am Kelly Norris, Middle School Counselor at Chicago Valley School.
Hi, I'm Virginia DeLong. I am a school counselor at Lebanon Middle School, and I am the 2020 Connecticut School Counselor of the Year.
Hi, I'm Dana Fudge. I'm the Director of School Counseling at Maloney High School in Meriden.
A great thank you to all of you for your service and support that you provide for our students and for our families throughout the state of Connecticut. Your hard work and dedication is very much appreciated by all of us at the Connecticut Department of Education. Michelle will now introduce a special guest of our panel.
Thank you. Each year, the Connecticut School Counselor Association selects a School Counselor of the Year. This award honors a professional who devotes their career to advocating for Connecticut students and addressing student academic and social emotional development, as well as college and career readiness. The Connecticut School Counselor of the Year represents our state at the Ask a National Counselor of the Year process. This year's recipient, Virginia DeLong, is truly an exemplary school counselor who cares so much about student success and advocacy. We are so honored to have her on this call today. Virginia, would you like to say a few words?
Thank you, Michelle, and thank you to the Department of Education for hosting this wonderful webinar today. Over the last several months, educators across the state have been putting their all into providing meaningful work via distance learning platforms to their students. Student support staff like school counselors, school psychologists, and school social workers have been creatively finding ways to connect with their students to provide the much needed academic and social and emotional support our students need to succeed. However, the true shining stars in all of this are our students. They have worked hard to overcome barriers and challenges placed in their path at the last minute and have learned to adapt to our current world of online schooling. Our number one job as counselors and educators is to advocate for our students, and we will continue to do that in the coming months as we prepare our students to transition to the next grade and return to school or to move on to new life experiences. We will do this by allowing the students' ever important voice to be heard. I am excited to hear from our 6 students today who represent schools from across the state of Connecticut and look forward to finding additional ways that we can support all of our students as we move forward.
Thank you, Virginia, for those inspiring words, and congratulations. And now to our VIPs of today's panel, our students. Thank you for joining us today and help us gain a better understanding of distant learning during COVID-19. Before we start, I would like each student to introduce themselves. Please share your name, your grade, and your district. Nadia, I'll start with you.
Hi everyone, my name is Nadia Belko. I'm a 10th grader and I am at Cheshire High School in the Cheshire District.
Hi, I'm Avery Brooks. I am an 8th grader at the Lebanon Middle School in the Lebanon District.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm Isaiah. I'm Isaiah Harvey. I am in 12th grade, and I'm from the Windsor High School, Windsor District.
Hi, I'm Alex Parent. I'm in 8th grade, and I go to Roger Lidlow Middle School in the Fairfield District.
Hello, everyone. I am Ishmael Morales Soto, and I go to Francis D. Maloney High School in the Meriden District.
Hi, my name's Reagan. I'm in 6th grade, and I go to Chippewa Valley School.
Thank you all again for talking with us today. Your voices are going to play a very important role for all of us. Vanessa will now get us started with the first question.
Hello, students. My first question is a two-parter, and Alex, I'm going to start with you. So what is one challenging aspect of distance learning? And what is one positive aspect or silver lining about distance learning?
I feel as though one aspect that is kind of difficult where you don't have the same thing when you're in school is group activities and like the social, like being social with everyone. And like it's a very important part of learning when you're together with like your friends and your peers and you're still learning. And it's hard to get that with distance learning. But also the silver lining is you kind of get your own time to do things. You don't feel like as stressed, like I have to get this, let's say, just this math sheet in by the end of the class. You rather have the time of the day and you get to pick like when you want to finish it.
Great, thank you. Anybody else like to answer?
Well, I agree with what he said about the difficulty of not that social thing that we're used to. Because for me personally, my favorite part of school was like going to class, talking with my peers, solving problems with them. And now I can't really do that as much as I was able to before. So that's definitely a big change and something that's more difficult about online learning for me.
Like Isaiah said, I find myself FaceTiming a lot of my classmates recently when we do work together because it's like both of them were saying, working with other people and your peers is a huge part of school. And I find that, especially in high school, you do more group projects. And I think that's something that we're definitely missing out on is the social aspect of going to normal school as compared to distance learning.
And a really difficult thing that I have come across is trying to learn new concepts for some of my classes, especially math and science. Because not having the teacher there to explain it thoroughly can be a little tough at sometimes, but I think that also teaches us responsibility. And it prepares us for what's ahead in college because the professor's not going to be explaining everything to us and we're going to have to figure stuff out by ourselves.
Avery, did you want to respond to that?
I was going to jump in on what Alex said. He said like you have more time to get stuff done. I was thinking since we're doing distance learning, we can get school done in maybe 2, 3, 4 hours instead of 7 or 8, including homework afterwards. So it just goes by a lot faster and there's a lot less stress going around.
Thank you.
One thing to add to the social aspect, a good way to almost get around it is me and my friends are a lot of the time on Google Meet because it's really easy accessible and like we can use it. And also you don't need to like share numbers like if you don't have it, you just go on Google Meet together.
Great, thanks for that additional information, Alex. And Regan, did you want to answer too, please?
So something hard about distance learning is we go on like Zoom and Google Meet, and sometimes like the teacher will glitch, so I can't always understand like what she's saying or he. But a silver lining is it's less schoolwork. I mean, well, the school hours are less long, which means like less stress, I guess.
Good. Thanks for everybody for sharing your answers. I have a second question for you, and this is also a two-parter. And Regan, why don't we start with you on this one, okay? So what is your typical day like during the school week? So for example, are you learning in a live class at a certain time? Or is the work assigned to you and you have to complete your work on your own time?
It depends what class. Some classes I go on Google Meets with them every day and it's scheduled. And then other classes it's assigned and we can do it. We can try to finish it in that class, and if we don't, we can do it outside of school.
Great. Any other responses to that? We'd like everybody to answer this question if possible.
I know that for me, when we first started distant learning, it was Zooms every day, meetings every day. We talked to teachers every day. But now that it's towards the end of the year, I don't know if it's just me because I'm a senior, but my classes are more like, okay, this is due Friday, this is due a week from today, kind of thing. So it definitely has changed. I was more comfortable with the online classes, like seeing their faces every other day, but I guess it just didn't stick, which is okay. I'm still getting my work done, but that's a big difference from how it was for me.
Yeah, being a senior as well, for me, most of my teachers have just decided to assign me work for the week. And they'll give me a certain amount of assignments and just tell me to finish it before Friday or Sunday. And they will hold office hours just if we want to tune in. But most of the work is just do it whenever you want, as long as you turn it in on time.
I'm a sophomore and I feel like I'm in the middle with this. So I have a balance of kind of assignments that are week-long things. For example, I have a marketing class and we have a project that we're given actually 2 weeks to do. So I've been slowly working on that. And then I have day-to-day assignments as well. Definitely for my chemistry and my algebra class, I have daily assignments, maybe span of 2 days. And for Google Meets, I would say I don't have them every day for the same class, but I definitely have more Google Meets for math and chemistry, since I think that's a class where you kind of really need to explain, you need that teacher to explain all of the concepts out to you, since it's a more meticulous concept for math and science, I'd say. So we do more Google Meets, and then we'll do occasional ones for language arts and Spanish classes for me.
Yeah, for me, I have like maybe 2 Google Meets a week. And for specific classes, I have projects for Spanish. And so we have to like say them on a Google Meet so she can grade us. And the rest of the work is day-to-day work. We don't have any like Google Meets. So we just do that on our own time. And I normally FaceTime my friends to get those done.
Great. Thanks everybody for answering my questions.
Okay, I say one more thing if that's all right.
Yeah, go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, similar to Avery, like for when they have to say for Spanish, we actually use Flipgrid, and I find that a very good system. So like, she'll give us like an assignment, and that'll be like also our attendance. So it works out that way.
Great. Thanks for that follow-up information.
All right. Hi, everyone. Again, and welcome, and thank you guys for being here. So I'm going to ask Isaiah this question. Isaiah, if you can answer this, and then if we can also have other responses too, that would be awesome. So the question is, what kind of distractions do you have on a given day at home versus the distractions that you have at school? So Isaiah, if you can answer that first.
So the distractions that I have at home mostly consist of technology, if I'm being quite honest. Because like in school, they had the no cell phone policy in class wasn't a problem for me because I never used it. But now that I'm home and it's like there's no teacher, no class, I do find myself grabbing my phone more often. So that's a big distraction at home. And then at school, a big distraction for me, I don't want to say my friends because I was a very focused student in the classroom, but I will admit I am human. I have talked many times in class. I have done the normal student thing. So that's the big difference from school versus home.
Great, thank you. Does anyone else want to respond?
I was thinking the same thing as Isaiah too. I definitely find myself going on my phone more, just checking it. And also since a lot of my peers that have the same class as me are texting me now about assignments that we're doing, I find myself on my phone responding and talking about assignments. And also for me, my family could be a distraction too, because my mom is working from home, but my dad owns a restaurant, so he's still employed and he's working. So it's her with my sister and I, and things could get hard sometimes. She is on Zoom calls during the day. She's an occupational therapist. So my sister is still in elementary school, so I am finding myself having to stop my work to sometimes help my little sister with a math problem or her writing assignment. So there is distractions during the day for me, I would say. So it's good that assignments we have till the end of the day to do, because sometimes I wouldn't be able to finish them right when the class ends, so to say. So that was definitely one of my biggest distractions I've been having lately.
Definitely to add on to what Nadia said, I get distracted by my family a lot because my brother, he tends to not want to do any work. So I get interrupted by his crying or screaming sometimes. And so I have to go stop my work to go calm him down to make sure he can get his stuff done. And he has to transition into middle school next year. So he's getting stressed about that. So I have to help him with that too. My mom is a English teacher at Montville. And so I have to be quiet when I'm around her because she's mainly on her Zoom calls and meeting calls.
Along the same lines, I feel like in school I didn't have many distractions. I was a really focused student, but now I find myself every 5 or 10 minutes just going on my phone and actually wasting half an hour that I could have done my work with.
Reagan, do you want to give a response?
Yeah, my family's very distracting because I have an older twin sister and 2 younger siblings. And my younger siblings are very loud, so they can distract me sometimes. And a distraction I had at school was I would talk in class sometimes, but my friends would talk to me too. And I was like, okay, we gotta listen now in some classes.
Great, thank you, everybody. So the next question, and Reagan, I'm going to ask if you can answer this one first, okay? And then everyone else can respond. How is technology working for you? What type of technology are you using?
I'm using my Chromebook and it's working good for me. I've been able to get into all my classes. I haven't had it where it just my Chromebook just doesn't work, so it's working good for me.
To add on to my using my Chromebook, I also use my phone a lot so I can call my friends and so they can help me with a problem that I'm stuck on. Or we just do the whole worksheet together so we could just get it done at the same time. And I also use my phone to check emails because I know I never check my emails on my Chromebook. So it'll pop up on my phone and I can respond then.
Yeah, I also use my Chromebook and my phone for a lot of emails and stuff. But when it comes to technology, it does usually work perfectly fine. It's just when there's a mistake, like a teacher posts something wrong on Classroom, something's confusing, that's when it's okay, going back and forth, that's the problem. Because a lot of the time it's okay, this is not right, or I don't see this, I have to email them. They might take forever to email me back, wait for it, go back and forth, and that's when problems start. But other than that, technology is working just fine.
I agree what Avery was saying too. I feel like I use my phone and my laptop simultaneously during the day because definitely it helps with emails because they show up right on your phone when you get a notification. So that's helpful. I've had a couple issues with my Wi-Fi, but overall, I think it's just because there's multiple people in my house using it. But one thing I did have to do for my recent AP exam was I just wanted to make sure there would be no issues. So I made the rest of my family in my house turn off their Wi-Fi, so it would only be my device on the Wi-Fi at the time. So that seemed to work well for me. So if anyone has any AP exams coming up this week, I think this week is the last week for it, but make sure everyone else turns off their Wi-Fi because it seemed to work pretty well for me.
Yeah, I use my Chromebook a lot. Mostly my Chromebook. I'll use my phone sometimes. And I have really had no issues with these. And yeah, there's not much more to say.
Great, thank you.
All right, I guess we'll move on to the next question, which I have, and I'm going to start with Nadia on this one. So how do you reach out to your teachers or your counselor if you need one-on-one support?
So Miss Katucci and we have weekly Google Meet sessions, usually Thursdays, and we have them for about 30 minutes, maybe longer depending if I'm having a bad day or not. But it's usually just a checkup. How are you doing? How's your week going? Because before distance learning, her and I would have visits from I think we'd have visits at least once a month in her office. So since it's more of a stressful time, we felt that maybe once a week would be better. And I think it's really been helpful since sometimes my mom's busy and I can't always vent to her. So it's good having someone to talk to about these kind of things when I feel a little bit stressed. So I definitely have found that it's very beneficial meeting with her every week.
Mainly to contact my teachers, I would email them if I have any questions, or if they post something on Google Classroom, I could comment on what they posted and they would mainly reply. They would sometimes reply back if they're paying attention to the comments. And to contact to see if I have any questions, I will email them and ask them to set up a Google Meet so they can answer questions if I have any about their class and their work that they assigned.
I know that my math teacher, she does check-ins every Wednesday at 10 o'clock. So I usually go there for help sometimes if I need it. But what I do usually is that if I do have a Zoom call that day with a class, I'll send a comment to them privately, be like, oh, can you just stay after class, extra 10 minutes? And they're usually okay with that. That's really been helpful. They're there for me. So yeah.
I usually email my teachers every single time I need help, and for the most part, they've all responded within, the few hours, which is really nice. And also, most of them have office hours, so if I want to talk to them personally, I could just tune in. They hold them 2 or 3 times a week, so that's really nice.
If I need help from my teachers, I usually email them. But some of our teachers, if we have solo work, they're go onto this Google Meet if you need any help with it. So if I need help, I just go on that.
For me, I usually, me and my teachers use, or really my school uses Google Classroom private comments. I find it really helpful because you can turn the notifications on for your phone. So it just says it pops up and it says private comment, your teacher and your class. And you can use it. You can just go through, let's say I have a question, I'll ask it, and she'll be answer. But that's just a way to communicate, the first part.
All right, my next question. Are there courses that are easier or harder to do online? So for example, how do you complete labs or participate in a class like PE? And Avery, if you can start this one, that would be great.
Yeah. I feel like my Spanish class is a lot harder to do through a computer because she'll give us Quizlets that we have to memorize and learn. And when we were back in school, we would have a normal Monday vocab quiz for Spanish, and on the Friday before, she would help us pronounce the words and how to spell them and say them. But now that I don't have that anymore, it's kind of challenging. And I know the computer can talk back to you and help you with that stuff, but that also doesn't really help because it's a computer, and if you have questions, they can't really answer it. And I think the easiest class to do is my science class because he doesn't give a lot of work, and the work is pretty easy. So I just FaceTime my friends and we get it done in like 10 minutes.
For me, I think my hardest class, again, definitely going into distance learning, was my AP US history. So we had sort of our plan to prepare for our traditional exams, and when we found out that they would have the modified exams, it was kind of overwhelming, definitely, before our exam happened, because there'd be a lot of announcements that would be posted, and she would be assigning us a lot of work to help us prepare. And at times I kind of felt that was a bit overwhelming, because I had to change my whole study plan for that, and it was just kind of a lot of information coming at you at once, and that made me feel a little overwhelmed. But for labs in chemistry, I think my teacher has just avoided doing those, since chemistry labs involve a lot of materials that I know most of us definitely do not have at our house. So we've been kind of just working on like problem-based assignments and like conceptual learning. And for PE, we do a weekly log that we list an activity or two that we did during the week, and they ask us how it was, if you've enjoyed it, and what your heart rate was.
I know that for me, my harder classes were English and math. That was just because those are really like discussion-based classes for me when I was in school. Like for English, every time we got like a project or an essay, it would always be like in class, if you have questions and all that, and understanding the concepts were a lot easier. Same thing with math. It was like, okay, you have a question, raise your hand right away, help each other. But we can really do that now. But easier for me was definitely my AP Gov class and my anatomy, because those classes were basically just taking notes and just understanding what's happening, because anatomy is just the human body. So it's like, okay, the heart, okay, I know the heart now, is easy, simple thing. And then same thing, AP Gov, like, okay, this happened, how it affected, stuff like that. So it was easier just to take notes and have my own time to digest it for those two classes. But for English and math, it was a little bit harder because it was more understanding and applying versus the other two.
Yeah, personally, I think that my science and math classes were the hardest. I didn't get a lot of work from science, but I had to learn all the concepts by myself, which was a little hard, especially with the AP exams coming up for both of these. And, calculus gave me a lot of work, but I think this was good because it really prepared me for the exams and everything. But it also made the class a little harder. And the rest of the classes are pretty easy. I am taking a gym class, and we are only doing, he sends us occasional workouts to do, and then we'll do a project every once in a while. And aside from that, the rest of the classes are pretty easy.
Back to phys ed, I feel like it could be an issue for some because, well, I see issues arising because I know that not everyone may be honest about like going out and being active. So I feel like that can be difficult for PE teachers because how much like they wish that like all their students would be able to, still do activities and stuff. So that's definitely something that like we lost from distance learning, because with physical education at school, like we definitely had to do it. We were forced to take the class and we do the activities. So that is definitely something that we've lost from that. One thing about my math, I think it's been a little bit easier for me personally, and that makes me a little worried sometimes because when I go into pre-calculus next year, I almost worry that maybe like my skills that I learned from Algebra 2 during this distance learning, like I might not have as many skills as I could have had when we had normal school. So I worry that I might be like a little behind when we begin pre-calculus next year. So that's just one concern of mine as of right now.
Adding on to the math portion, I honestly think, well, my math class is going a lot slower than it should be because we're obviously having a lot more questions because we can't figure it out on our own. And so to take a lot of the things that we were going to do at the end of the year out of the process. So we may be behind in Algebra 2. And that may affect how we learn in Algebra 2 and how much we get done in that class too.
The hardest class for me is probably Spanish on distance learning because she gives us like worksheets that we have to type on the Chromebook, and we can't always add like the accents in and there's a bunch of different like forms of the words, and we have to get like correct. But the easiest class for me, I think, is PE, because we have her every other day. So she just wants us to write down on a piece of paper like what we do outside or inside or like something active. And then we just take a photo of that and send it to her.
That's good that you guys have photos for your school for PE. I wish ours had that too.
Yeah, that seems like a good system. But
Yeah.
ours is kind of we get these activities that are actually kind of cool, and I do them, but it's definitely not the same because we get this Google form at the end. It's like the exit slip for the class, and you like explain what you did, what was hard about it, what didn't you like, what did you like. But yeah.
For PE, we don't really have like an exit slip or photos to do. We got a schedule, I guess, where you could say what activity you did and like how long you did it for and how many times you did it during the week. And at the end of that schedule, he gives us a bunch of different exercises, like just basic workout things that you can do. And he just kind of trusts you based off of that.
Okay, I have the next couple questions here. I'm going to start with you, Ishmael. What are some things that you like to do to relieve stress? And then everyone else, if you can answer as well, that would be great.
One thing I love doing to relieve stress is just going out to my backyard, especially now that it's really sunny outside, and I'll just lay down, maybe read, even though I don't read a lot, or just relax outside with my phone or just enjoying the weather.
I definitely go outside a lot too. I think especially with the nicer weather, sometimes I find myself like bringing my laptop out on the patio and I'll do work out there instead of cooped up in my room because it's always good to get a change of scenery. Sometimes I struggle with trying to relieve my stress. So I feel like this time I've been trying to like try different ways to actually like find like good stress relieving things for me. I think cooking has been helpful for me a lot. I cook and bake for my family, so that's kind of just like a mental break I get during the day because it's kind of just mindless work for me sometimes. And yeah, reading helps too.
I kind of take like a phone break, kind of. I will go outside, like talk to my parents because they're mainly in the gazebo that we have. I'll go onto TikTok because the generation's obsessed with it kind of now. And I'll also just turn on music and lay in my bed and just think and comprehend what I'm going to do to relieve stress.
Yeah, I find myself a lot of time just listening to music and just going on long walks, going some hikes here and there, and just listening to music mostly, really. Just long walks and stuff.
Yeah, music's a good thing I've been listening to a lot more music now because it just helps me kind of ease down. And also I go outside. I like biking around just aimlessly sometimes, but for fun, just go around.
I got into biking a lot too. I have a trail near my house and I think I go about once a week, and it's kind of just a good way to exercise too because if you're on a flat trail, you kind of don't tire out as easily. And one day I actually ended up reaching like 20 miles on my bike, and it was really nice because it was just a nice workout for the day. It was also a good stress relieving thing for me too because it was just being out in the open, just listening to music on my bike. So that was really nice.
And we have been going on a lot of walks. Like I've been going to airline trails around the state and just walking down those and seeing how far I can get.
If I'm stressed, I like to hang out with my dogs because I have 3 of them, a dog person. And I'll play with them outside. I'll hang out with my siblings. And yeah, kind of it.
All right, thank you. Next question, and actually, Regan, we'll start with you first, okay? Are you part of any extracurricular activities while online?
I don't think so.
Like any clubs or anything that you were once involved in that have continued online, maybe?
We have clubs at our school that we would meet with like once a month, and me and my friend have a club. It's cooking and eating, and we're still trying to do that club. We're starting up Google Meets and like Zooms we can do with the people, but we have to run that by each other.
I'm in DECA and we're going to have a Google Meet around next week because some of the sophomores and the juniors have applied to be officers. So I think it'll be our little virtual end of the year party on Google Meet. And then we'll announce who won the position. So that's good. I'm a dancer. So every Friday we have Zoom calls with my dance peers and my teachers, because normally on Fridays before this, we would have like Friday meetings with my dance studio. So now we're just having it on Zoom. And not many of my other clubs have done much, but the sophomores in my school are now starting our application process for NHS if you got in. So we've been a lot of my friends and I have started working on applying to National Honor Society. So that's as much extracurricular that I've been doing. I did some driver's ed classes on Zoom because they had to close down, but that's kind of not really extracurricular, but just something else I've been doing.
Okay.
Besides school.
I'm on
Anyone
LJHS, and we kind of just stopped doing things. We were going to plan an end of year dance, but that obviously got canceled because of school. I'm also a peer educator, and actually tomorrow I have to go on a meeting with all the fourth graders so they can help transition into middle school and like get a sense of where it's going to, like how it's going to be like. I'm a dancer also, but my dance studio, we kind of just stopped doing dance. Like we haven't had any Google Meets that I've known. And I think most of us have just been practicing in our bedrooms, just having fun and dancing around, but not really doing an actual class. And I've kind of created like my own type.
Sorry, is your dance teacher like against Zoom classes? Because I know mine, for some reason, she just has no intention of having Zoom classes because she thinks since everyone's on like different internet and stuff, it'll be too like, it will freeze up too much for us. So she's very against like doing like group dance classes on Zoom.
Yeah, I don't really know. She just kind of stopped doing it. And she also has 3 kids and she's pregnant with another one. So I think it's kind of stressful for her to do a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else have anything they wanted to share regarding extracurriculars that you're still involved in online?
Yeah,
I am. Go ahead.
Isaiah, go ahead.
I'm part of leadership council at my high school, along with like young men's mentoring, and so we still do online Zoom calls, just talking about like stress and like stuff we can do like to help our peers and all that. And I'm also a part of my choir still. My choir, we still meet. You know, Miss White, she has us sending singing videos once every week at least, and it's really cool. Right now, we're working on like a project graduation thing. We're all singing a song, giving like solos and all that. So it was really fun. We're still doing stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm part of the outdoor adventures club we have at our school, and we haven't done much since because we can't really go outdoors together. But we did make a poster for the Earth Day, which was really fun activity. And I have been trying to reach out to students because we have our peer tutoring program over our school, and I am one of the tutors. But unfortunately, not many students have really tried to reach out for help. So on that side, I'm not doing much.
Okay. Thank you all.
Okay, great. I have the next question, but before I ask you the question, I wanted to tell you I think it's great that you're all finding activities to de-stress and keep yourselves busy when you're not doing your schoolwork. So my question for all of you is, and Avery, I'm going to have you answer the question first. Is there anyone at home that's been helping you with your schoolwork at all?
For me, I feel like my mom helps me a lot with like English and Spanish. I also have a godmother and she's Puerto Rican, so I call her if I need help with Spanish. And that's really it. I don't really have anybody to help me with math because my mom doesn't like numbers, so she stays out of that, and I call my friends.
I know for me, when I was in school, I was always like, to myself, or even while I'm home now, when I do my work, I don't really have anybody helping me. But when it comes to like giving me like the most comfortable environment, my dad has done an amazing job helping me, keeping me focused where I'm doing work. So like the actual like schoolwork itself, I'm doing that. But when it comes to like being organized and giving me like a good environment doing my work, he's definitely doing the best he can. So that's always helping me.
I've definitely become independent on doing my schoolwork by myself, but like Isaiah said, sometimes when I need a little pep talk or I need some help with my time management during the day, I'll ask my mom to be like, when should I do this? What time should I do this? I feel overwhelmed right now. So usually if I have a lot of schoolwork, I'll ask her to help me like make a schedule during the day. And once in a while, I'll have her read an essay of mine or two, but overall, I'm pretty independent with my work.
I'm independent most of the time, but if I need help, I'll ask my twin sister because she's in my grade, so she like understands the stuff. And I've most of my classes with her, so if I'm like, oh, can you help me with like, say it was science because we have science together, she's like, oh, you just have to do this. So she's been helpful.
Yeah, as far as schoolwork goes, I have had to do most of it myself, but every single time I have to do a project, like building something or drawing, coloring a poster, whatever, both my parents and my sister have always are always trying to help because they don't have much to do either. So yeah, they help me out. I help them out with other stuff, and yeah, that's how we go.
I know
Alex,
that
did you want to chime in?
Yep. I know that for me, a lot of the time, let's say I'm having trouble on a math problem, I'll call my brother over or something because he's 2 grades ahead of me in 10th, and I'll just like ask him, like see what I'm doing wrong or anything. And then for science, since my mom works at Staples as a teacher, I usually ask her, and it works out.
Great, thank you. It sounds like you all have great strategies.
Okay, guys, question number 10. And Reagan, I'm going to start with you. How have you dealt with this transition to the next grade or post-secondary?
For the 6 or like,
Yep, so transitioning to the next grade, meaning next year.
so next year as in like 2021 or like, okay. I don't know really.
That's totally okay. Has anybody else done any planning for next year or transitioning for post-secondary?
Yeah. So next year I'm fully committed to go to UConn stores. So what I've been doing is that every time I get like an email from them or anything with like orientation or information wise, I read it top to bottom, make sure that I'm fully caught up. Any papers they need, I make sure I get in as soon as possible. And even now, like I treat my classes as if like I'm already like at UConn in a way, because we don't know where we're gonna be at for the beginning of next year. So it's like if I have an assignment due Friday, I know, okay, let's just say this is due Friday, I have to do it now. Like I prepare myself situation where I know I might be in next year. So that's definitely like helping me get to the next spot.
Yeah, going on with what Isaiah was saying. Being a senior it's kind of complicated. I am also going to UConn, but I'll be going to the Hartford campus.
UConn, sorry.
Yeah, and the biggest problem with me has been I have financial problems with that. So that's the hardest thing to handle now because between scholarships, AP classes, and the whole transition, it's been kind of tough. But I'm going along with it.
It's really good to hear that you seniors are still working very hard in your classes and being ready to transition to college, because I, for one, know a couple seniors that tend to slack off around this time, and then they get to college and it's kind of a rude awakening. And I always think it's good to always put your best foot forward. And I worry about that too as I transition into a junior, and fingers crossed, if hopefully we can return and go to regular school, or maybe sometime in the year we can return to regular school. And I worry that transitioning back might be also a rude awakening for all of us, because this is a lot of downtime that we're getting right now. And I, for one, had a lot going on before this all happened, and everything was really fast paced. And I almost feel like maybe when we start back, it'll just pick up again, and I might crash once or twice. And since I'm very used to being very slow paced right now, so that worries me a little bit, because I know junior year could be a stressful year. So that is a concern.
Yeah, to add on to you, Nadia, I feel as though, especially with the summer break, it's going to be even more of kind of, because even just when we have summer, it's still like when we get back, we're like, whoa, this is a lot of work.
Yeah, definitely. It takes me a while to get back into it.
Yeah, and we've had this for already like 2 months about now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be
Almost been 70
definitely,
days.
yeah, it's going to be interesting.
And I feel like a lot of people are going to kind of crash, like what Nadia said, because they're so used to getting answers and just FaceTiming their friends whenever they have a question and just getting answers from people. It's not going to be normal having to actually do the work.
I just came to the middle school this year, and at 5th grade at my school, we didn't get a lot of work, and now we're not getting a lot of work. So I feel like when I go into 7th grade, it's going to feel like I just came from like 5th grade going to 6th grade, because in 6th grade, I had a lot more work than I did in 5th grade.
I felt the same way going from 8th grade to freshman year last year. It was a lot more work for me going into high school, because my middle school, they don't assign as much work, I would say. So I worried about that a little bit too, that it might be the same way again.
Especially for me, because I'm going from 8th to 9th next year. So I'm kind of worried about like how it's going to feel when I get back, and we're not doing this, but we're back in school, hopefully.
I feel the same as Alex, because like I don't really want to have to start my freshman year through a screen. It'd be a lot better to just go to the school, like get the one-on-one time, I guess, and actually be at the school and not have to start through a screen.
Mm-hmm. Definitely for freshmen too. This is your time when you get acquainted with the school, you meet people and teachers. Like going into freshman year is very important, because this is like the beginnings of you getting to know the school and everything. So it's something that would be upsetting to miss out on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, especially for like me and the other guy, probably knowing that next year that we're going to like college is like really, it's not scary, but it's more intimidating, because it's like, I know for a lot of you guys, it's like you're going from middle school to high school, which it is a big jump. It is different, but it's like, it's more different for me and the other guy, I forgot your name, but him, because we're going somewhere. Yes. And it's kind of like, I know for me, I'm really nervous about it, because it's like, I'm not going somewhere where it's like, okay, I know how things go here. It's like, I'm going to a whole new place. It's like a 4-year sleepover kind of at a school. I'm like, I don't know how I'm ready for that yet. So.
And you're also hitting the real world.
Yeah, definitely.
And you don't have teachers to like, okay, this is due. Like you don't have a second. You have to do stuff at your.
And you have to meet new people too, like friend-wise. Like high school, you knew. Your middle school friends, you knew.
Exactly.
Those people.
So I'm definitely like anxious about that. But
well, we thank you for all those great answers and your transitions, and we hope the best for you. I have your last question, and this is an important one, because this is your time to give us advice to your teachers, your counselors, and other students about online learning. So if you had the opportunity to give that advice, this is your time to tell us. Nadia, I'm going to start with you.
I think, first of all, us as students, sometimes we tend to think about ourselves and how we feel, but I feel like we should take a moment just to recognize how much our counselors and teachers are really doing for us, because just like us, this was a shift for them. This wasn't something that they were used to, and now we are all doing this transition together. So that's very important. And at least for me, I think that when, as much as we can communicate with each other through Google Classroom, Google Meets, whatever we can, because I think we all are feeling different emotions about this right now. So it's always good to still be connected with your teachers and your counselors during this time. And I don't think kind of being more distant than we already are is good for us, like not responding to emails or not being present to Google Meets, because everyone's trying to figure this out, like I said. So everyone's full participation is definitely important. As for teachers, I think a lot of my teachers are really doing a good job. Maybe just more check-ins. I know my lit teacher, she does a lot of check-ins, like mental health check-ins, where it'll be a Google form if you want to talk about how you're feeling and if you find the workload to be a little too much sometimes. So if you want to answer it, like she'll let us answer. I definitely think more teachers should be open to trying that, if anything. But overall, I think the unity is pretty good when everyone communicates.
Thank you, Nadia. How about you, Alex?
I feel as though a good part of advice for teachers is try to get your students to turn notifications on for Google Classroom, and I feel like they should try to use what they have, the private comments, to communicate with the students. Even my Spanish teacher, let's say I have the flip grid, a lot of the time she'll just make me feel a little better. She'll say, good work on the flip grid today, good work on the assignment, and that'll just kind of add a little more security that I'm doing well, I guess. And then to add to that, I feel like cutting some extra busy work would be a good thing, because sometimes I'll get an assignment and I feel like it won't benefit me, but it'll just take time, and that gets me a little stressed.
All right, thank you, Alex. How about you, Avery?
I'd say for the teachers, we think that they aren't as stressed, but I walk into my kitchen and that's where my mom's working, and she's always stressed, filling out assignments, making sure kids are getting their assignments done, filling out attendance. So I think we don't give as much appreciation to the teachers and the counselors as we should, because we think that they have it easy because the work that they assign is pretty easy, but they're actually really stressed, and we should probably thank them for that, helping us get through this as they're getting through it on their own.
Thanks, Avery. Ishmael?
I do really appreciate how teachers have been working really hard for us. The only piece of advice that I would really throw out there is that using the same platform, I know that teachers have been encouraged to use Google Classroom, but still I'm working on 4 different platforms, and it is kind of complicated to keep track of everything. But aside from that, I think I'm pretty good, and everyone's doing really well, teachers and counselors. My counselor has, been there for me. I've called her a couple of times, and it's really good communication. And all of my other teachers are also there whenever I need to ask them something.
Thank you. Reagan?
Like what Avery was saying, my mom made me realize, I was oh, this is so hard. And my mom's think how hard it is for the teachers, because they have to think of a way to put this stuff that you're supposed to be doing in actual class online. And some things in science, we were supposed to have a lab, but we couldn't do it. So she had to come up with something else for us to do. And that advice I would give teachers is, in some of my classes, they call on the same students repeatedly. So I would say try to call on not just the same person, but as many people as you can.
Thank you. Isaiah?
Yeah, one piece of advice I would definitely give to my teachers, and I took a lot of time thinking about this because I asked my friends and everything, and they were because I noticed it too, I recommend that teachers stay on the same page when it comes to giving assignments and doing work, because I have friends who are in the same exact class, not class, but same exact grade as me, same level of class, for English, and they have a lot more work than I do. And I feel bad because it's like I don't have that much work to do and they're over there stressed and we have the same exact class. So I definitely want to make sure all teachers, like if you can, communicate with one another, see where you're at, make sure you're on the same page, make sure it's fair for everybody. And for students, I guess what I can say to you guys is just don't give up. You're almost there. There's no point in stopping now. If you feel overwhelmed, please talk to somebody, because I haven't known anybody personally, but I've heard stories from like different places where during this time students have like self-harmed and all that, and that's the last thing I want anybody to do. So please, students, like reach out, talk to your friend, and even us here, like even though we might be okay, your friend might not be. So I always call my friends to make sure they're okay, and just just a lot of
Yeah, I really like what Isaiah said there about having like everyone on the same page, all the teachers, because that you can even bring more of like a social aspect into it. Because let's say my friend from we have crews at our school, from another crew has like work or just another class, and I want to like talk to him about it, but it's completely different. It makes it harder. So that's one thing.
Well, thank you for all that great advice. And now I'm going to send it back to Kim. And before I do, thank you again to our VIP 6 students. This has been very beneficial, and believe me, your voices will be heard. Back to you, Kim.
Thank you so much, Karen, and thank you so much to the team, and especially to our students on the panel today. You did a wonderful job. We appreciate you sharing your thoughts and ideas with us, and we learned a lot today. And I know that we are going to learn how to do this better for you. Thank you for your advice and providing all that great information. Underpinning our future work, it is going to be critically important to hear directly from students and providing them with a platform to discuss distance learning and how it's impacting them. So this is a start today. And from you from us, be safe and sending hope and positivity. Thank you.